Um, okay, so first, thanks for coming. I'm here today to talk about the problem we had when we set up centralized authentication for the Mageia project. So first, shit. Okay, yeah. So first, my name is Michael Chara. I'm one of the members of the system administration team of the project. And okay. And for people who were not there 1 hour ago, we are using Puppet for everything. So Puppet is an open source tool to take care of the configuration. And as I said, this is not a word fetish. So does everybody here know what is the Mageia project? Just raise your hand if you do. Okay, so for those that didn't raise your hand, I will have to quickly explain. So this is basically a Mandriva fork. Mandriva was a Linux distribution, well, still is a Linux distribution, which started 10 years ago. And last year, they had some financial problems, so we decided to fork it, so we can keep the project running. And everything we did was based on our experience as a Mandriva contributor and Mandriva employee. And so first, when the infrastructure of the Mandriva project was created, it was using NIS. So for people who are old enough, NIS is a system used on Unix, like Solaris, like HPX, to have a shared account database. It was used only for the small cluster of 5 computers. And it was using, we were also offering various services, such as a forum, a Bugzilla, something for the customer to enter incident, for people to buy a gift and stuff like that, which were obviously using a separate account database. So someone wanting to complain on the forum had to open an account. Then people were starting to say, oh, you need to open a bug, then a second account. And then we say, oh, this is a corporate product, so you have to open an incident, so a third account. And then finally, once people are happy and want to buy a CD or something like that, it's a fourth account. So obviously, this caused various trouble that I will detail right now. So the first and the obvious one is people forget their password. All the time, especially if you have lots of passwords, you keep forgetting, or you use the same 1, 2, 3, 6, and so on that everybody uses, and it's not secure, which is the first problem. The second problem is people who forget their login. So obviously, since there is a separate database, there is some logins that are not available everywhere. So as long as you cannot have the same one, it's become problematic. People forget how to retrieve the password, which is also a problem. Since you have a different way to get it, then you have to search, and first you reset the password, this is not the good one, and so on. And finally, the most problematic one is when admin forget how to retrieve password for user, because there is 10 different procedures, and we are admin, and we prefer to do nothing than read documentation or write documentation. Then there is lots of problems. And finally, on a more pragmatic level, there is no system-wide ACL. So if someone is said, okay, you are admin, you need to go to 10 different databases and say, this person is admin, this person is admin, this person is admin. And this is really problematic, especially when someone is leaving. So you need to say, this person is not admin, and so on. And it let lots of security hole. For example, I no longer contribute to Mandriva, but I'm still able to do lots of nasty stuff since I'm still an admin. And I know other people who are like this, and who are not listening to me and using their laptop at the moment. And so, we wanted to solve the problem, and the first attempt was to use LDAP and a custom database called My Mandriva. So some people may have heard it. And it was still too complex, mainly because it was 2 accounts instead of 1,000, but that's still 2 accounts. It was complex because we had to write the software by yourself, which was needing a lot of manpower, because we had to rediscover everything, like doing stuff securely, doing stuff easy to use, when people have already solved the problem like 1 million times. So this was the situation just before the fork. And then we did a fork. Since we were the one running away from the infrastructure, we had to start from scratch, which was nice. I think we didn't have to support all the crap that was done since 10 years, and we had to start our own crop, which is nice. So at the time, people tend to think that we planned everything, that we really think about it, and it was not the case. We almost decided one day, and the next day the fork started. So we had to think fast and to decide what to do. So we can have done it Fedora style. So Fedora is using custom DB, and they are writing adapter for that everywhere, which is quite interesting, because you have the total control of what you store and how you store. And the problem is there is lots of code that you have to take care of by yourself, which means that instead of discussing on IRC, you need to write code, to debug it, and so on. So it was not really good. So we could have done like OpenSUSE wanted to do, but that's what they said they would do, but they didn't do it. And they use OpenID. So for people that do not know, OpenID is some kind of standard to delegate authentication, which is nice because you can use it on an external website. External website means usually less work for admin because someone else is doing the work. But the problem is only authentication, and it's not supported everywhere. For example, you cannot use it on Facebook, on Twitter, and stuff like that. And yet there is a demand. Oops. And it's harder than login password because first you have to give a URL. So usually people, normal users, do not like to give that. And you still have to give a login password. So instead of forgetting login password, people can forget the URL, the login, and the password, which is not really what we want to achieve. And finally, we have the unique style, as we are doing at my day job, which is basically LDAP, NIS, and Kerberos. So as I said, NIS is too old, completely deprecated, and there is a various problem. Kerberos was not treatable for a system based on the web and so on, because people have to use to set up Kerberos on their computer and stuff like that. And finally, the only thing we could use is LDAP, which was a perfect match. So because this is a standard, this is well known, we do not have to train people. Usually they can train themselves or at least be trained by their job or something else, which is better for us. Everything that we work can be pushed upstream. So every code we write will be shared and will be taken care by someone else than us, which is also a goal for us. And this is secured, usually, when done properly, of course. And this is documented because it's a well-known standard. There is lots of documentation, not a good one. I'm not saying that. And so finally, we decided to use LDAP. So we didn't really add the choice about the server. It's either OpenLDAP or the server from Red Hat, and OpenLDAP was packaged, and the Red Hat directory server was not, so it was easy. It's a small setup. We have only 10 computers, so we have one master and 2 replica in case of a problem in the master. So far, we are lucky because we didn't have to test if it works. Because maybe if the master is down, nothing works, but thanks God, yeah, a question?
Why not multi-master?
Why not multi-master? Because we are lazy, and if people want to provide patch, they can. We are publishing the Puppet configuration for that, and so far it works, so we have more urgent things to do, like doing conferences and stuff like that. So regarding the whole setup, since we wanted to have a secure system, we wanted to be able to say this application was hacked, we need to disable it. So instead of having one password and distribute it on every services, we have one password per server and per services. So if someone get access to Bugzilla, we can disable this password without having to change everywhere, without disruption. And the main problem we had was to need for an admin interface, because it's nice to have a database for account, but someone had to create the account. And if possible, if the user can create their account without asking to us, it's better for us. Again, we want to be able to do something else, like writing slides for presentation. So for that, the main problem we had that it's a very specific niche, especially since usually in a company you do not need that. You have a sysadmin that can do the job. There is no thing like people come in the company, create their own contract, and then they engage themselves. So there is lots of software for doing that, but mainly from free software projects. There is identity from KDE. There is GNOME Mongo. There is a Fedora account database and stuff like that. But usually it was not designed for being reusable outside of the project. So it needed lots of customization. So we did what we didn't want to do. We wrote a web interface in Catalyst because the sysadmin who proposed that was a Perl guy, which was not a bad choice, at least from my point of view, because he was against PHP. Because with PHP, the only way to change your password and follow LDAP standard is to use Perl. There is some article on that. So really, do not use PHP. And yeah, the main problem is sysadmin are not coder, so the code is not exactly clean. And coder are not designer, and sysadmin are not designer either, so the code is not really so clean. And the web interface could benefit from a little cleaning, like being rewritten from scratch. So I've started to do that. So there is stuff that are not a little bit pretty, and there is stuff that I didn't touch, where the form are not aligned and stuff like that. So just to say, don't do that. If you need to create your own project, and if you really want to do it, first don't do that. And then try to reuse something. There is a Fusion inventory, there is lots of projects that are much better than doing your own stuff. And really, I think it seems easy, it is not. It is not because there is lots of stuff to take in account. For example, UTF-8. People tend to have a non-ASCII character in their name, especially when you go outside of the USA and England. There is also weird stuff with name. Some people do not have a first name and a surname. Some people have only one name, stuff like that. So if you try to use a first name, last name, it may not work. There is a lot of problem for various administration about that. When you need to give your first name and there is no place for putting a space of stuff like forbidden characters, we had the problem. We wanted to be rather secure, so we only use the first letters, and people complain about not having the dash and so on and so on. So it's rather tricky to get it right. So we will likely not get it right. We still didn't, and it's been like 1 year and a half. And for testing, we do have two instances. There is one which is stable, and there is one which is a trunk, where we try to change some stuff, and we say to people, if you need to do something, try to use it. So basically, we trick our user as a QA people, and when they complain, we say you can go back to the stable version, and if they find a bug in both, then we are in trouble, but so far that's not a problem. And the main interest of my conference was all the problem we had with the application. So we can divide them in basically 3 categories. So please do not log too much. So there is the good one. The good one is the tools that fully support. You mean you install it, it works, there is no problem. For example, there is everything around Apache, which is basically using LDAP without any plugin, well, without a module, but distributed with Apache. You can use a login password, you can restrict by group. There is module for Django, which is doing everything, which will be syncing the database from Django with LDAP and so on. There is everything around SSHD. So that's the good part, and usually you deploy that and you say, oh, it's so easy, why didn't I do it sooner, and stuff like that. And then appears the bad. So the bad, it's everything that do not support it yet, because obviously someone has to do the job, and usually it's you. So for example, it's Mailman. Mailman had some integration, but was not so great. Moon, which is a software for Planet, which has no integration with LDAP. And there is MySQL, even if I think MySQL, since I've been able to plug the account database on LDAP, which means that you can say some people, like let's say a forum admin, can directly connect to MySQL and fiddle with the database. So far, we do not do it, but if we need to do it, it will be done like this. And there is so you have two choices. Either you switch, for example, we do not use MySQL, or you add support. And so far, we didn't do that, because it's lots of work. And as I said, LDAP can be tricky. And there is a third type of application, which is the ugly. So they support LDAP, so you say, oh, great, let's try. And it doesn't work as you want. For example, there is a MediaWiki. So MediaWiki supports LDAP, it's great. There is a plugin and so on. Except you cannot have an underscore in the login. So that's bad, because we have some people that are using this, and that they need to create a second account, which defeats the whole idea of a centralized account for everything. And I think there is it's quite tricky to fix, because it's directly a limitation of MediaWiki. There is stuff like Sapa, which we try to use instead of Mailman. And Sapa, that's the problem is everything is stored as email. So when someone uses a login, it's translated to email, and then the email is stored in SAPA database. So when someone wants to change the email, admin needs to change it by hand, which is a pain. The web interface can be bypassed. So you set up LDAP authentication, and people can just decide to not use it, which can cause lots of problems. And the integration is complex, since there is 4 different functions to integrate with LDAP, some supporting some type of group, and some not supporting everything. So you need to place the same configuration everywhere, and it's not really coherent. And the problem is then you start to look at the source code, why it works this way, and really don't do it. It's not something that you should do it at all. I mean, I prefer to do Windows system administration than reading again the SAPA source code. And there is we had some problem with PHP-BB, because PHP do not sync a group at all. So we created a group for forum, for example, for packagers, for sysadmin, so that everything can be displayed in your profile. And you just need to sync everything by hand, which is something we do not do. So basically, it's useless. And there is Bugzilla. Bugzilla that suffers from the same problem from Sympa. Everything is done by email, so you have, which is problematic because you have to protect the LDAP database, so email are not sent in the wild, but you also have to do it for the Bugzilla database. We wanted to, for example, to provide the whole database of bug as a downloadable archive, so people who want to fork or own fork can do it. But we can't, because there is email everywhere, and that's something that we do not want to do for privacy reasons. This and some laws in the European Union, which prevented to do that. And so one tip that could save some time to people is that everything supports multiple backend by default. I mean, it's never written anywhere. But if you give true LDAP server to something using OpenLDAP, it will do the right thing by default, which is not documented, but that's nice. And finally, what we are planning to do. So first, we have decided that people tend to forget their login, as I said. So the idea is to be able to give your email, and it will be converted to a login, and then you will have something, one less thing to remember. The last thing is to get rid of password, but it's tricky. So for example, someone will use the email to log on Bugzilla, or on SAPA, or Transifex, or anything, and it will be automatically use any of the email he gave us in LDAP, which is much easier in my own opinion. We wanted to add an OpenID provider. It was asked by several people, so they can comment on blog and stuff like that, which is easy to do, but no one has done it. So if you feel like if you have an afternoon to do some code, we will be glad to accept a patch or to help you. We wanted to have a delegation. As I said in the previous conference, we do no delegation, which is bad, because the same people are doing the work, and what we want is do no work. So the first step would be to be able to, someone who is taking care of the packaging team, to say, okay, this guy, I want to promote it as a full-time packager, to be able to do that without asking to a sysadmin to do the job, which is usually just one checkbox to click, which is rather easy, but yeah, that's still too much work for us. And we wanted to plug everything on it. So far, there is some services that are not plugged on it. For example, the blog. WordPress can be used with LDAP, which would help us, because right now we need to have, I forgot my password to the blog, so I cannot post anything, and I'm too lazy to reset my password. Sorry? Speak up? Okay, I will take it like this, easier. Yeah, the same goes for Planet. Right now, I think it's not plugged on LDAP, so this can be problematic if someone needs to change a feed or something like that. And finally, what we will need is to add more information in the schema. For example, we wanted to have a list of where people do live, so we can do events and stuff like that. And for that, the default schema are not working, so everybody create a separate schema, which is nice, but usually we will have to do the same. So we will have to fork the schema of someone else, change some stuff. We already did ask for a number, no ID at the Ghana, I think. So we can create one cleanly. And so far, we still didn't do anything, but it will give us the freedom to store what we want in the LDAP. And I think that's all for my presentation. I was planning to be maybe a little bit slower, but I didn't. So if you have any question, even a question not related to the talk, I will be happy to answer to anything. Don't be shy, I will not hate anybody. No? Yeah? Not working?
Oh, that's better. Thanks. Okay, so you had chose to rewrite a tool for managing LDAP tree.
Yeah.
You didn't. I don't really understand why the administration didn't want to use a PHP interface, like GoZatu or Vision Directory.
In fact, it was related to the XOP operation, I think, and it was not possible to say you need to change your password and to have the PHP interface to react to that. It just wasn't supported. I do not have the details. The primary reason was he was also working on this tool since a few months because we had something operational in 3 days. So it's rather fast, so I think he was working before on it. But I think you should, if you give me your email, I can give you the email of the guy who did that, who can explain the problem. I think it may have been solved since that, because there is no reason. But yeah, basically it was for that, for some specific reason regarding LDAP support. Maybe it has been fixed, really, but I'm not that fond of PHP, so I was not against doing it in Perl.
Yeah, because you can modify passwords through a PHP interface. Because modify password is just to make LDAP modify operation.
Yeah,
you're not obliged
yes.
to do exact
The problem is when your password is expired. I'm not a LDAP expert, so please, if I did something wrong, just tell me. When you need to change the password, you need to send back something to say the password needs to be changed, it's not valid. And that was the part that was not supported, or at least for some configuration. I do not have the details for more than, well, I do not have the details yet. I can search later. But,
okay, thanks.
Was this related to the password policy, or?
No, I'm not sure. I think we didn't have a password policy in the beginning. Then we started to add one to have a rather to have a stronger password. I'm not sure how it's enforced. I think it should be enforced on the LDAP side because people can directly use LDAP from command line, so there is no need to use it. There is no. It's not wise to put it on the web interface.
I mean, in Dayjob, I used a lot of PHP and LDAP integration with passwords, but I didn't have any expiring passwords, so that could be related.
Well, I think you can, again, you can ask to Backend on IRC, and he will explain if he is available, because which is the main problem.
Yeah, if he's available, indeed, yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyone else?
Hi. Just a quick question. This Perl software, is it not basically an LDAP editor?
Yes, but we wanted to. It's not a LDAP edit. Well, it's written like LDAP editor, but a LDAP editor is not something that we want. I think basically letting people edit every field is a good thing for that, but I think that we should have an overlay over that would restrict. For example, several people had a problem with SSH key because they can upload their SSH key, but they strip the type of the key and then it doesn't work. So they say, okay, I cannot connect. They ask to the sysadmin check the log says the key is not good and so on. And we lose time because we cannot add much validation on this part. So that's what I wanted to do is add a more user-friendly interface. I do not know if I have internet access. I can show you the current interface, and yeah, that's a LDAP editor, but that's not really what we want. That's really what we have.
And is it open source and free to use?
It's published. Everything we do is published, from the Puppet configuration to the source code we write, because if we start to do some, well, we are an association. There is no real reason to hide anything. And if we don't publish a thing, we cannot expect people to discover how it works. And if they cannot learn, they cannot replace when we want to change, when we want to grow the team, or if we want to leave the project, we cannot expect people to discover by themselves. Some will, but most will not. So we have to publish so they can take their time and do everything.
Thank you.
A question about OpenID.
Right.
Was it Is it thinkable to provide OpenID service by service? Maybe.
You mean an OpenID consumer?
Yes, OpenID consumer for maybe for the blog. It may be more usable for the blogs than for other systems which are not web related.
In fact, the main problem I have with OpenID is that if we start to let people using account from another database than ours, we still need to say this account where we do not have any information need to do something. So we have the account database on our side, and there is another account database on the other side, and we cannot guarantee anything about the security of the password and stuff like that. So imagine if I say this person can access to the web interface to sign the ISO or something like that. I cannot check that your password is strong enough, and for me it's a no-go. We can use it for a consumer-related project like commenting on blog, but not for something which needs to be part of the project. I mean, we want people who participate in the project to have an account on our database. And that's the main goal. For everything, that's not a problem. If people want to post a blog or stuff like that, post a comment on a blog, yeah. But not for something that represents us. I'm not sure if I'm clear.
Yes. So enabling OpenID for some website or some web-related, and only for commenting or not things representing Mageia.
Yeah, basically everything that we want to be able to be edited anonymously could use OpenID.
Yes.
For the rest, where we want to have some control or stuff like that, we cannot.
Yes, the OpenID provider instead of just the OpenID consumer.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
No more question? Oh, okay. So thanks for coming. If you have any questions that you do not want to ask while there is a movie and stuff like that, you can ask on the booth in the other building. And if not, I can be found on IRC, on mailing list, on everywhere. You can try to say my name when you are looking at a mirror. I might appear, but usually it doesn't work. But yeah, thanks you.